There we go. Hello. Damn, I need to fix my light. That's better. Hello, Jacksonites. A quick little video today. I decided to do this as a bit of like either an addendum or a wrap up or a epilogue to my Jaws re-review series. I was inspired to make this video mostly through my Jaws reviews, and also a lot of these movies I consider to be summer films as well. And just in general, doing the Jaws movies got me in the mood into this subgenre of movies. Today, I will be listing off my top 10 favorite underwater monster movies. I just thought this sounded like a lot of fun. I was originally going to try to do maybe my top 5 favorite killer shark movies, but then I realized half of that list can be pretty predictable. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll just try to do top 10 killer sea animal movies. And while a lot of these are killer sea animal movies, there still wasn't quite enough to fill out a top 10. So then I realized, why not just make it an underwater monster movie? Because there's plenty of those. So I said, okay, that'll work. So yeah, nothing. I love that name, Toku Punk Productions. Hope you're not really a punk in real life, but yeah, I love that name. Yeah, I just thought this would be a bit of good fun. Underwater monster movies, I think they are a little bit of a niche subgenre, but I think that they definitely, for some people, hold a lot of value, because I do know a lot of people who actually are afraid of the ocean, myself included. Like I can swim in pools and some rivers and maybe a lake. But if I'm gonna swim in the ocean, I'm gonna stay in the shallows, because I definitely am afraid of the ocean. I'm afraid of just being in the middle of a vast body of water and then looking down and just seeing nothing but blue emptiness. And I'm also afraid that if I look down and I see something move, it's big. I think that fear is called. I don't quite have what they call thalassophobia, which is a fear of the ocean, like full on fear of the ocean. But or maybe I do. I don't know, because like I said, I don't want to be in the middle of a body of water all by myself, just floating. But I don't think anybody wants to do that. So, the ocean, just in general, is something that scares me, but also fascinates me. And also, there's tons and tons of sea animals that would make really, 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 really good killer monsters for monster movies. So today, I just thought it would be some good fun if I listed off my top 10 favorite underwater monster movies. This probably isn't going to be a super long video. I just want to do this as some fun. And with the word being spoken, of course, without any further ado, let's get into it. Coming in at number 10. Oh, by the way, I thought briefly about having a guest on this, but I decided to do this all by myself. Coming in at number 10, I actually have this movie right here. Deep Blue Sea 3. I just watched this a couple days ago. Me being on paternity leave and staying up all night to look after my son. One thing that I'm grateful for is that it sort of does force me to stay up and watch a whole bunch of movies that I own that I still haven't watched, which actually is really nice. In my entire paternity leave, I've cracked out over a dozen movies that I've owned for a while, and also quite a few new ones, and this being a newer one. I only just bought this like a week ago, and I sat down a couple days ago and watched it. And I really actually dug this one. Deep Blue Sea. Now, I never actually thought that we would get not one but two sequels, because the story was in the first movie was wrapped up pretty well. But when I heard they were making a sequel to Deep Blue Sea, I was like, oh, okay, I ain't gonna say no. But then I actually watched Deep Blue Sea 2, and it was awful. Absolutely awful. It was boring. It was dull, tedious, stupid, and it's one of those standalone sequels, which I absolutely hate when franchises do that. Um, I just feel like it's another, especially with Deep Blue Sea 2, it really felt like somebody just had a script for a very generic killer shark movie, but they wanted to include the name Deep Blue Sea just to give it some level of recognition so people would go and see it. Oh my God, I hated Deep Blue Sea too. Excuse me. Oh fuck, I just remembered a really good movie that I should have included on this. Oh well, hang on. Oh well, I'll get to that later. Anyway, so and then I heard that they were going to be making a second movie. And I was very, very, very skeptical. I don't know if Deep Blue Sea 3 was directed by the same guy who did part 2. I hope not. Um, but I was very, very skeptical. I saw the trailer for Deep Blue Sea 3, and I was still a little skeptical because I just was thinking, trailers are tending to lie to a lot of audiences nowadays. So I was just still very, very skeptical. But when, due to the Jaws reviews, last time I was out shopping, I found Deep Blue Sea 3 for like $10. So I was like, all right, I'll grab it. And I kind of put it off and I put it off. But after I did my last Jaws review, I finally said, yeah, I'm in the mood for another killer shark movie. I guess I'll pop on Deep Blue Sea 3. And I ended up being very pleasantly surprised. It definitely is way better than part 2. It eclipses part 2 within its first 25 minutes. Oh my God, part 2 is so bad. I could spend all day on why that movie is so bad. Yeah, Deep Blue Sea 3 is a lot of fun. I appreciated that it does acknowledge its predecessor, which it mainly is a direct sequel to, but it does something that the predecessor did not do, have some kind of connection to the original Deep Blue Sea. It's only in one scene, but I still appreciated that the filmmakers were acknowledging the first movie. So I was like, okay, so maybe they're just trying to learn from their mistakes from the second film. There's a lot more kills. There's a lot more blood. It's overall a lot more tense and more entertaining. The characters aren't nearly as boring as part. God, I'm just shitting all over part 2. But no, Deep Blue Sea 3, I legitimately do think is a good movie. Not one of the greatest killer shark movies of all time, but if I was to do that, well, there wouldn't be a top 10 list, but this is just my opinion, so oh well. Yeah, Deep Blue Sea 3, it was entertaining. I liked it quite a bit, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Coming in at number 9 was a movie that really threw me for a loop. And by the way, this list isn't necessarily in any particular order. These are just my 10 favorite underwater monster movies. Not really in any particular order, but this one I actually did, the first two at least, I did put kind of low. I do like Deep Blue Sea 3, but it's admittedly nothing super, super special other than just being Deep Blue Sea 3. But this one is, but also isn't something special because Well, let me just explain. My number 9 is Underwater from 2020, starring Kristen Stewart. What? Anyway, yeah, Underwater was a big pleasant surprise for myself. I remember seeing a promotional poster for it toward the end of 2019, and I thought it might have been like an underwater disaster movie, which it kind of is that too. But then I saw a trailer and I read some details online, and it was revealed to be an underwater monster movie. And even with Kristen Stewart attached, because I am a fan of the underwater horror movie subgenre, I was like, okay, maybe I'll give this a look. And then when I found out that it was one of the very last 20th Century Fox movies to be released before Disney stole them from right under their nose, so I was like kind of feeling a bit rebellious and going back and supporting Fox before they were stolen. So last year I gave Underwater a watch. I didn't buy it from any store. I actually bought it off Redbox because I was hearing some good things, but I was still not really willing to pay full price for this movie if it ended up sucking. And then right before I watched it, I saw a report that stated ending monster of Underwater is a surprising literary monster. So that got me thinking, ooh, I think I have a little bit more faith in this movie. So I sat down and I watched Underwater and I was very taken aback. I was shocked to my core at how much I liked this movie. Um It's very tense. It's very well made. It's very gripping. It's actually scary. This is another example of a PG-13 rated horror movie that actually does work as a scary movie, because it is playing on that whole underwater fear, the fear of like just black emptiness. Um, And also it's playing on that fear of the unknown and also the fear of underwater sea monsters, which we'll talk about the monsters in a minute. Um, the ending definitely threw me for a loop as well. I may as well just talk about it. So the monsters are initially just thought to be like underwater humanoids, like deep sea dwelling fish human hybrids. Which even then, if they were just to go off of those, I think the movie still would have been pretty strong. Especially the moment where I think it was Kristen Stewart's character, or maybe it was like her right hand man in the film, when she's like stuck to an underwater lamp and it's flashing on and off, and there's that one monster that's like slowly creeping towards her and it's trying to swallow her whole. That scene like kind of had me squirming in my seat. Um, Then the ending comes around. The scene where Kristen Stewart is stalking through what looks like a floating colony of these humanoids that are asleep when she's trying to get herself to safety. She's attacked by one. She manages to kill it, and then she thinks they're all about to wake up, and then they just all disappear. She fires an underwater flare, and lo and behold, what does she find? Straight up, the ending monster in this movie is Cthulhu from the H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu mythos. I remember there was a lot of buzz saying they're like debating, is it Cthulhu? Because they don't outright say it's Cthulhu in the film. It's just revealed to be a giant underwater humanoid monster, which if they were to leave it ambiguous, it still would have been creepy and fucking creepy as shit. But the director did actually come out to say, yep, it's Cthulhu. So I was like, damn, what a way to end a monster movie. Um overall, this movie really, really threw me for a loop. It does have some problems. It does have a massive alien vibe, which another movie on this list as well also has an alien vibe, and I'll talk about that later. Um, I think it would have benefited from being full on R rated because there are a couple pretty violent deaths in this movie. Like there's one dude who pretty much just gets torn and crushed in his own underwater pressure suit by a monster. Like it tears through his suit and then just rips him out from under his helmet. That was a pretty gnarly kill, but I still feel like this movie would have benefited if it was full on R. Um, the ending is also it both begs for a sequel, which I don't think there's any plans to make a sequel to this, and also Kristen Stewart's character dies. I feel like that's a spit in the face, which apparently one of the alternate endings to this movie actually did have her repairing her escape pod and actually escaping. But yeah, I feel like her dying is just a bit of a spit in the face because she was busting her ass the entire movie. And just to have her die at the end feels cheap. And also, yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this, but not a fan of Kristen Stewart. Just going to say that right now. Um, I have unfortunately seen all 5 Twilight movies. Actually, the last 5 days leading up to my son's birth, well, before we left to have him be born, Meadow and I watched all 5 Twilight movies, one a night for 5 days. Yep, still don't like her. Those are definitely her worst movies. And she also turned into a hoe. I feel bad for Robert Pattinson that he was actually in love with her and she broke his heart. So, fuck you, bitch. But in this movie, my God, she can actually act. Yeah. Overall, Underwater really, really, really threw me for a loop. I was very pleasantly surprised. It's got some problems. Maybe I should review this movie. It does have a couple issues, but it's a damn well-made movie. And for 20th Century Fox's last attempt to stay out from under Disney's prison shackles, I think they went out with a good bang with this one. Coming in at number 8 is Orca, the Killer Whale from 1977. Admittedly, this idea was kind of floating in my head, no pun intended. But this one, when Adam Noyes talked about how much he loves this movie in his Facebook group, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this video. So, and yeah, I admit, it was inspired once again by Adam Noyes. But yeah, Orca the Killer Whale is a damn fine movie. Anybody that tries to say that this is a Jaws ripoff, you're wrong. Now, yes, it was very much so inspired by the success of Jaws, but it's kind of like Gamera to Godzilla. Not nearly as much as Gamera, because you definitely can say Gamera is a Godzilla ripoff, but still, Gamera ended up being its own thing in the end, and same with Orca the Killer Whale. This movie, I remember seeing on AMC back in the early 2000s, back when they used to have a lot of fun with playing nonstop horror movies during the month of October. And this was one of those movies they played. And I remember it distinctly scaring the shit out of me when I first saw this movie. I was like, oh my God, because I had seen all 3 Free Willy movies and also Namu the Killer Whale. So I was definitely very familiar with, those family-friendly orcas or man's best friend type movies. And then comes along this movie, and it's straight up Jaws, but with a killer whale. I was like, fuck. Some of the deaths are totally shocking and gnarly and gory. The killing of the whale's mate is one of the most disturbing scenes in all of cinema history, in my opinion. The miscarriage of the baby orca is another one of the most disturbing scenes. Like I said, all of the kills are gnarly and freaky as fuck. Um, the movie's score is absolutely phenomenal. It's well shot, it's well made, and it's just got a very dark, bleak, fucked up ending that kind of leaves you feeling a bit empty by the end. But overall, Orca the Killer Whale is a damn fine movie, in my opinion. Um, and that actually is why this one is a bit low on this list, is because it's a great film, but I don't think it's very rewatchable because of how fucked up and kind of sad it is. But Orca the Killer Whale is a damn fine movie, in my opinion. And it has a fan base, but I still think it's a severely underrated movie, in my opinion. At number 7 is Jaws 2. I'm not going to talk too much about this. I love Jaws 2. Think it's a great sequel. Think it's a great movie overall. Um, it's one of the greatest sequels I've ever made, in my opinion. Yes, it's a carbon copy of the original Jaws. And yes, it's Universal trying to cash in on Jaws' success. But they did make a good movie out of it. So I don't think that's necessarily a flaw you should hold against the film. You should acknowledge it, yes, but don't let that spoil the film for you, because it actually is a good movie. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Number 6, Leviathan from 1989. In 1989, there was a very brief explosion of this very niche subgenre of being underwater horror movies. There was at least 4 or 5 of these movies released in 1989. There was Deep Star 6, which I do own and I have seen. It's a decent movie, but the underwater monster movie aspects of it arrived just a little too late in the film, in my opinion. Anyway, so there was that, and there was Leviathan, which came close. There was not Humanoids from the Deep. There was The Rift, starring Arlie Ermy. There was, I can't quite remember. There was at least 2 other undersea horror movies that were kind of low budget that were released around the same time. In my opinion, Leviathan is the best of all of these movies. Oh, and there was also The Abyss too, of course. Never have seen The Abyss. It's probably the only highly acclaimed James Cameron movie that I still have not seen. I used to own it, just never got around to seeing it. Leviathan, in my opinion, is the best of these movies. I still remember the first time I saw this. It was on Comcast, because my dad and stepmom used to have Comcast and Xfinity, and I would watch a lot of movies and shows on Xfinity at the time. And I saw this. It was titled Leviathan, and I read the title. It sounded like a horror movie, and I saw its cast: Peter Weller, Richard Crenna, and Ernie Hudson for starters. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll give this a look. And within the first 10 minutes, I was sold on this movie. It's like, ooh, I think I like this, especially with the long, slow camera shot that descends the ocean with that creepy ass music that plays. I was sold. Very, very sold. And I watched the movie in its entirety, and I was very thoroughly impressed. Then I bought the movie on Blu-ray, and I was even more thoroughly impressed. I dig the shit out of Leviathan. I think it's a damn fine movie, a very underrated film. Its sole problem is that I wouldn't even really say it's a problem, but it can be if you let it be a problem. It's very much both a ripoff of Alien and John Carpenter's The Thing. The monster in Leviathan straight up is a man-made version of The Thing, just based in underwater deep sea life. But other than that, I think this is a really, really, really solid, well-made creature feature. Tons of practical effects. The monster, like I said, pretty much is a deep sea man-made version of The Thing. But that's not a bad thing, because you have another monster that can turn itself into any grotesque, nasty deep sea menagerie of monsters whenever it wants to. It can do it from a finger or a severed limb, which it does in this film, or it can turn itself into any monster at once. And it looks great. It looks nasty and mean. It goes around absorbing humans and turning them into monsters as well. It kind of tries to have a little bit of that, who's who paranoia of the thing, like who's a monster and who's not. It doesn't totally go into that territory because it would even come off more as a ripoff of John Carpenter's The Thing, but there's a little bit of that, and I appreciated it. It's got a good cast, a really good setting, great music, fantastic effects, great scares. Little bit of a bullshit ending with the needless killing off of Ernie Hudson's character. But it definitely does end with the bang, with Peter Weller giving us a final oh yeah, Peter Weller's in this movie. He's absolutely fantastic in this film, in my opinion. But giving us a great one-liner, say, "Ah, motherfucker," tosses an explosive in the final monster's mouth and blows it the fuck up. Um, so yeah, Leviathan, I really need to review a lot of these movies. Leviathan, in my opinion, is a severely underrated monster movie. It's got a great cast, great effects, great music, great cinematography. I just think this is a damn fine movie. Now we're in top 5 territory, starting off with number 5, the original Creature from the Black Lagoon. I've been in a bit of a Universal monster movie mood lately, and I'm just going to throw this out there. This is my favorite classic Universal monster movie from the 30s, 40s, and 50s era. I technically probably would say my favorite overall Universal monster movie is the 1999 remake of The Mummy. But that's not part of this cycle. Creature from the Black Lagoon is a masterpiece, in my opinion. I absolutely adore this movie. The Gill Man is my favorite Universal classic monster. It's such a shame that this guy has never really been given, aside from his original movie, the time of day, because his 2 sequels range from okay to very questionable. And the one time when he tried to be resurrected in the 80s with the Monster Squad, he's on screen for maybe 5 minutes and he just gets unceremoniously killed off. Fuck you, Fred Decker. But yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon is such a damn fine movie. I love the Gill Man. I love his design. I love his music. I love his roar. I love his design. I love all of his rampage scenes. Though I think his rampage scenes in the next 2 movies are a bit more fun because they wildly exaggerate his superhuman strength. But here, he's still threatening. He's still scary and menacing. A little bit of that King Kong factor to him, and the fact that it's the monster that falls in love and runs off with the girl. Yeah, very much like King Kong, actually. And for an 80-minute movie, I really don't think it suffers from a short runtime. Well, all of the Universal classic monster movies have that issue where their endings are wrapped up in the snap of a finger. This one's no exception, but it's still good, I think. Yeah, it's well shot. It's well made. It's got great underwater cinematography. Poor Rico Browning, who had to hold his breath for up to 4 minutes at a time underwater while wearing this not really bulky, but still wearing a thick rubber suit underwater is still going to be difficult no matter what. Also, I think this is where the creature looks his best. In the second movie, the creature suit is not nearly as well made as the first one, and he's kind of shortchanged in the third film. But this movie is just awesome. Easily, like I said, my favorite classic Universal monster movie. And a fantastic musical score. I think I said that already, but yeah. And also, while this movie didn't scare me, it did also give me a little bit of that Jaws underwater creep factor. Like I feel like I'm being watched when I'm swimming in water with this film. And this movie being the same age as Godzilla, 68, nearly 68 years old, and it still has that creep factor to it, that's lasting power. More power to it. Coming in at number 4 is Piranha 3D, directed by, I believe, Alexandra Aja. When did this come out? I think it was 2010. Oh, it's 2012. Okay, no. That was 3. Huh? Yeah, Piranha 3D from 2010, directed by, I think it was Alexandra Aja or maybe Fede Alvarez. No, it was Alexandra Aja. I knew absolutely nothing about this other than it being a remake of the original 1978 Piranha. Do you like The Blob? No, actually, not the original Blob. I am not a fan of that film. I like the remake, foreshadowing. Piranha 3D, I knew absolutely nothing about other than it being a remake of the original 1978 Piranha. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a look. And I saw a quick clip of it on Count Jacula's top 13 gooder movies list. I think it was number 1, actually. So based on that clip, I was like, ooh, I think I want to see this. And I sat down and I watched it. I was not disappointed. I actually kind of felt guilty that I was watching this movie because my grandparents were out and about doing stuff at the time. So I was like, I should have waited until nighttime to watch this movie because of all the blood, carnage, and tits galore in this movie. Like, oh my God. Damn. How did this get released theatrically? My God, this movie is just fucking nuts. What if Alien and Star Wars had a PG-13 crossover? No, wouldn't work. Would not work. Based on that fan art commission that gained a lot of popularity of Darth Vader with his lightsaber unleashed, surrounded by a horde of xenomorphs facing a queen alien, that would need to be an R-rated film, straight up. But anyway, so yeah, this movie is just fucking nuts. Absolutely nuts. The piranhas just absolutely fuck everybody the fuck up in this movie. They get torn to pieces, shredded to the bone. A lot of the blood is CG, yes, but I still think it looks good. The piranhas themselves are nasty, nasty, nasty little bastards. It knows that it's carnagey B-movie campy goodness, and it embraces that because, again, my God, this movie is just nuts. Also, if you're a parent, definitely don't let your kids watch this movie based on not even just on all the gore, but damn, there's just all of the tits galore in this movie. It's just Christ. This is definitely an adult film, especially with the one dude, I think it was played by Jerry O'Connell, who gets shredded down to the bone, waist down, and in his last moments of life and in shock, he's like, "They took my penis. They took my penis." And actually, I remember Jackie Boy telling me that he actually saw this movie in theaters, stoned, and when his penis gets tossed into the water and a piranha eats it, burps it out, and then eats it again, he tells me that he was howling with laughter in the empty movie theaters. And I think an employee had to come and check on him because he was laughing so hard. It's funny. It's funny as fuck. This movie knows that it's dumb, fun, and stupid, and it embraces it. The ending near the end of the scene, it's kind of like actually kind of reminiscent of the Blob, where there's tons of people getting torn to pieces by piranhas near the end of the movie. Oh my god, is it just gnarly and nasty as fuck? People are just getting eaten and torn to pieces and dying left and right. It's just all out madness, mayhem, and chaos. Holy shit. um, I also appreciate that this movie has a couple nods to Jaws. The overall plot itself actually is pretty similar to Jaws. There's even a scene where Ving Rhames states, "You know, this movie's finances come from summertime, right?" Straight out of Jaws. And also, the first man to die in this movie is Richard Dreyfuss. Not playing Matt Hooper, but he does end up saying fast fish, like he said in the original Jaws. So, yeah, check out Piranha 2010. It's a good time. Number 3, speaking of which, is the original Jaws. I know a lot of people out there are going to be screaming, "Blasphemy! Why is it not number 1?" Well, watch my review and I'll explain why. So yeah, I'm not going to explain, not going to be on this one too long, but I just will say, yeah, the original Jaws is a phenomenal film. I'm not taking anything away from it. It's a great movie, one of my favorite Steven Spielberg movies. One of my favorite killer sea animal movies, just in general, one of my favorite films. It's a great movie. I'm not taking anything away from it. There just are 2 more movies aside from this that I like a little more. So moving on, my number 2 is the original Deep Blue Sea. I dig the fuck out of this movie. I do appreciate that people now are coming around on this movie and are saying, yeah, it's not as good as Jaws. Well, I think it is. I think it's a little better than Jaws. But they're saying it's a great film. Its sole problem is that, yes, it has a lot of dated CGI, but its practical effects still look great. It's tense. It's got a good budget. It's got a good cast. It's entertaining, and it's got some good kills. It's a damn fine movie, in my opinion. And Deep Blue Sea, I think, is an unsung masterpiece. Love it. And it's probably the only other killer shark movie out there that has a distinctive soundtrack. It's a shame none of its 2 sequels utilize that soundtrack. But whatever. Deep Blue Sea 3, good fucking movie. And coming in at number 1, if you watch my channel, you might remember I stated this a few years ago, is still 2018's The Meg, starring Jason Statham. Very excited for this movie sequel. I hope that they try to turn this into another franchise, because they easily could, because there is now, I think, 9 books in the Meg series. So there's a very actually that's one element that this franchise has over Jaws. There's more than 1 book. So it actually warrants becoming a franchise, unlike Jaws, which none of its sequels needed to exist at all. Yeah, I'm very excited for this movie sequel. I wish I saw this in theaters. I'm actually like, you little fucking lucky bastard, towards my wife, because she actually saw it in theaters. This and Rampage she saw in theaters. I was like, fuck! Lucky. I was absolutely blown away by this movie, and every single time I watch it, I think it gets better, honestly. I absolutely adore this film. The Meg is better than Jaws. It's the greatest killer shark movie of all time. I think it's just in general the greatest killer undersea monster movie of all time. The Meg is a fucking good ass time. So with that being said, this is actually a lot of fun to do. Go and check out all of these movies. Oh, wait. One last thing. I will give a very strong honorable mention. I totally forgot about this movie until I was doing this video. I am going to give a strong honorable mention to The Shallows from 2016, I believe. I kind of blanched on watching this movie for a long time. I was like, I'm not sure if I'd like it. But then I finally broke down and checked it out, and I was again very, very impressed. It was tense, it was gripping, it was entertaining, but most of all, it was very, very, very just tense. Like I said, it was very tense. You're left on the edge of your seat, and you're stuck with Blake Lively's character thinking, how am I going to get out of this? How is she going to get out of this? It's one of the best games of cat and mouse that I've ever seen in film history, in my opinion. Um, yeah, The Shallows is a damn fine film, in my opinion. Um, just that one sliver shy of being on my top 10 favorites. But yeah, The Shallows is also a damn fine movie. So with all that being said, post your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends. I had a lot of fun doing this. This was just, like I said, a bit of good fun. Look forward to my next video. And as always, go out, and if you're going to be swimming in open water, make sure you have a big-ass diver's knife with you at least. And I will see you guys in the next video.